Oh, are you talking to me? A mic on? How you doing? Okay. Yeah. Easier. If you can. That's up to you. You all do whatever's comfortable for you. That's information everybody's getting. Start with that one. I think they know. Yeah. You need this bag? Jake, you need this bag? No, I'm just gonna use these two. I had like that. You prop the door open until I got back up there though. Okay. I'm just gonna use these two. I had to prop the door open. All right, all right. You want to go on stage? Yeah. God will. Yeah, it's safe. Open it up to the audience a little bit more. Go, tilt it this way. Yeah. The other one would be slightly. Yeah.
Excuse me. Question. Could I possibly borrow your charger to plug my phone up so it doesn't die during the live stream? And then like I can give you my charger.
This one?
Yeah, just because it's longer. So I think it might be later. And then here's mine if you still want it to charge more. I just need it because it's a little bit longer. Mine. Where is it? Might have to move this over.
Yes. Hey, how you doing? Look forward. Okay. Let's go.
How are you?
Your name?
No, I haven't been. I used to be on the free class, I'm like, then off and then, we don't. Always got something. Around. Oh, well, how are you? Yeah, we did that. I'm glad to be here. Yes. Good for you. This is oh, the virtual scene. Yeah, that's okay.
only way that's important is like roller.
Leave it somewhere.
Yeah, that's it.
Leave it under the bed. I'll have notes. But basically. That's me move like another.
This would be too late for me.
I've been doing that. And I started doing it 10 years now. Yeah.
That's the one.
That might be a good one. I think oh, see, it's something about this. I don't know. She's like, I know it's not.
No problem.
All right.
Hey, how you doing? You all right? Good to see you, man. Yeah, we had a couple times. Excellent. Excellent, okay. Good to you. All right, come on.
Got it here? All right.
All right. Which one? It is open. Do you see the presentation, the whole presentation? It's late. Yeah, it's open. Please come on to them. It's open. So, I'm glad you asked me about that. You got the only one. Thank you for having me. I look forward to it.
Hey, Square.
I was gonna say, I saw you back there. How are you?
Well, let's see. The she will down there. And I was walking around. But it's really good. So I'll pass it. It's like this kind of administrative support service. Yeah. Like some guy putting this funny, like, what over here, probably like, no, you make it. Oh, yeah, actually, on steroids.
You want to mute them like, well,
do. I've been doing this work now for over 15 years and was founding member of Hope Detroit and Detroit Champions for Hope. I am now the founder and CEO of Engage Detroit, a home to partner in the city of Detroit, and the owner of the Village, a recruitment agency that recruits family and caregivers and children for programming in the city. So with that, I'll turn it over to my wonderful partner over here.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
It's a beautiful day today
Amen.
to come and get some questions answered, huh? My name is Brandon Robinson. I'm with Detroit Champions for Hope, mother of three. And I believe that our children are our future, and now's the time to start setting a path for them.
Yes, so our candidates that we have today, can we get the candidates to stand? We have with us right now today, Coleman Young. We have a couple more candidates that we believe will be on their way. They are, they should be joining us on the stage shortly. But right now we have Coleman Young.
He just stepped out.
Okay, so Valerie Parker, thank you. Can you please join us on the stage? Yes, ma'am. So all of our candidates for today, please take a seat in the middle. All of our candidates for today are running at large. So at large means that as a city council member, they will be covering the whole city as opposed to covering one district, right? Even though all candidates really attack the whole city, but we really want to deep dive into what it looks like for early education and how they feel about pathways to success for our young people and our caregivers and providers, which is key to the success of our young people, right?
I just wanted to give a little background on Detroit Champions for Hope. So Detroit Champions for Hope is an organization that promotes family elevation through positive engagement. It's about families helping families and people helping people. And by working together, we can leave a lasting legacy for our children that is better than what we had. We do that by advocating for our children, advocating for our community. If nobody speaks up, then we won't have anything for our children. We won't have a brighter future for our children. So this organization is an organization that speaks up for our children, family, and communities. Make sure that we get in the fair share of what we need.
Yes. And so we'll get started in a second, but just to let you know, some of the questions were sent to the candidates ahead of time. So they kind of been prepped on a little bit of what we're going to ask, but also we will give you guys time to come up to the mic and ask some questions. We also took questions from the community. So we have some questions that came through the website that people have concerns about when it comes down to early childhood education and really children and families as a whole when it comes down to the city of Detroit. So we will get started. Yeah. Okay. So we will also talk about a couple other rules that we're gonna have during the forum, which I already shared with the candidates that's here, is that we're gonna stick to their opinions and their goals for early childhood education so that this doesn't become a debate, right? It's not about debating a person. You as a community member can't get not to hear a person like debate another person. We wanna know what you will do for our children and families. Also, we're gonna ask that people, when you have questions, that you come up and be a little bit brief on the mic, just to save time for other people to ask those other questions. And if you see that it's a question that kind of already been answered, unless it's burning in your heart, just kind of lay off of that question if it's already been addressed a whole lot. But please feel free to ask your questions. We'll save about 15 minutes, like I said, to actually ask questions from the audience. We also are asking that people make sure that you kind of, one mic, let the candidates kind of speak so everybody can hear, and make sure that you get a full understanding. If it's a question that you need some clarity on in the end, ask it, but just try not to like deep dive too much into something that's already been, talked about, so we can cover a lot of space. So we'll just sit down and wait for a moment. Here we go. We got coming down to the new room. Welcome to the the bathrooms are outside this back door to your left when you go out. And then you have, can I get everybody with these wonderful gray shirts on, these Detroit Champions for Hope shirts, to either stand or lift your hands? You will find them in different districts doing work with families and children and providers to make sure that their voices are heard and planning programs around early childhood initiatives, right? And what it looks like to engage families. So thank you, Detroit Champions for Hope, for hosting this forum and for being the workers that you are and the diligent advocates for families.
Amen.
So we're gonna reiterate, a couple of people just came in the room, so we're gonna ask people to make sure you have silence your phones. You may see us looking at our phones, but we may be looking up some questions or something if they're on our computers, right? But thank you for being here today. Oh, why do I have two mics? I don't know. So let me just both of you guys can just pass, you have 1 minute, the other can't tell you just pass. So yeah, so you have 3 minutes, if you can go and introduce yourself, we'll start with you. I don't have time right here, yeah. So you have 3 minutes to introduce yourself, and we'll go ahead and let you start. Hello, everyone. My name is Valerie Marker, and thank you for the privilege and the honor. I am what you call a youth advocate. I've been working with the youth in Detroit since 2005. I came here at the my restaurant, it's raining. I come down here to start a supper club in Detroit and wind up doing an after school program on Big last year. That was my own $20,000 that I put in there. Did nobody give me no money? And so I just did, I bought computers and sewing machines and did some things, and a whole lot of people who look like me gave nothing to me. So Congressman John Conyers covered me, Mayor Bean covered me, and Kwame covered me when I was going through what I'm doing. I lost everything trying to help these kids. So I started with Congressman John Conyers. So I went back to school because I was hearing some things about the kids when I was in these circles that I didn't like. So I went back and I got my master's in undergrad, African American Studies, and I got my undergrad and my master's in sociology, school society, and violence, and I wanted to learn to be pursue speaking language. So out of COVID here, they said our kids have some issues. So I have a friend who has a temp service, well, substitute teaching. So I started working with him for 15 years, going to these unchartered schools, the unregulated ones, not PPS, but the charter schools, and I don't like what I see. And so then the opportunity came up to do childcare. So I was a licensed childcare, I let it expire. I opened an out-of-school child program, started a business. The rules was different. The state didn't know what the city was doing. The city didn't know what the state was doing. So you doing all these permits, and it was just interesting. But our kids are our future, and if we don't help them, they are in trouble.
Amen.
By way of us, they are our responsibilities. My registry, I have 369 credits on my registry. I am a trainer under my registry. And so I did a training session called Home Environment and School Environment. Because our kids pre-K they transition from home to school. So they got this thing called academic funding. So a lot of times our kids come to the schools, don't know the school language, or they get in trouble. So it has to be a translation, to help them, because they get in trouble most of the time in the second and third grade, only because the language difference. So I have 4 kids, I have 8 grandkids, and I have 2 regular grandkids. And when I found out kids don't do what you say, they do what you do. So I told my kids, I was a young girl, at 20, I had 3 kids. I said, you won't do this. You won't go to school. You won't get on welfare. You're not gonna have no food stamps. Guess what? They all went to school. No welfare. Don't know what food stamps is, so we have to train them. And they have to watch what we do. So I'm here because I want to make a difference for the kids. As Colby would tell you, there's a lot of money out here. So we need some more money to bring them to Detroit number 2 to make sure our kids are all right and have a safe space place to go. Thank you. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. I am your city councilman at large, Coleman Alexander Young II. I have a 19-year, 16 law pass record of over $1 billion. Thank you, I appreciate that. I am proud to be able to one sponsor historic civil rights legislation that provided for maternity leave for pregnant women in the workplace. There was a woman by the name of Tisha Prater who was a police officer. And because of an arbitrary administrative law decision, she had to hide her pregnancy. Because if she showed her pregnancy, she had to take unpaid mandatory leave. And so if you had a man that received paid leave, stuff was tough, a woman, given the precious gift of life, should be able to receive paid leave. And so I was able to pass that legislation as a state representative. I'm very proud of that. As a city councilman, I'm also tremendously proud to be able to pass legislation to perform the zoning process, to make it easier for us to have more child care centers within the city of Detroit. Thank you, thank you. I want the bottom women that is up in the corner to take you on the road. I appreciate that. Appreciate that energy. But I just wanted to say, I think it's something that's very important. I remember a time when Detroit was a child care desert.
Yes.
And we have about 12,000 people now in the city of Detroit who cannot participate in the workforce because they don't have access to affordable child care.
Exactly.
Yes.
Makes
And
sense.
so that's why what I want to champion to be able to do that. One is I think that we need to be able to have policies such as with the state TRICARE program, which reduces costs by sharing it with the state, with family members, and with the employer. I think that's something that's absolutely vital and critical.
Yeah.
Also, I think what's important for us is to be able to change zoning laws that it's easier for child care centers to start, as well as be able to partner up either with the strategic fund or also with the state to invest more, provide more grants for child care providers.
Yeah.
Also making it easier to have an education campaign for them to be able to know the funds that are available for them to be doing this. We have to understand something. I think the reason why all of us are here is because we want to make sure that it works. Illiteracy and children are never in the same sentence again. That's how I look at it. That really is my job as the city councilman to do all I can to make that process easy. Now, I'm not saying that the city should run the schools, and we voted on this in the city of Detroit twice for the city not to. But I think through the power of contracting, through the power of being able to work with the recreational centers to have more child care facilities, with the power to be able to work with our school center system for the abandoned schools, we will convert those into child care facilities, and to be able to work with the private sector. Listen, I have worked with Alma Gritter, who has a program called Legacy of Literacy. That provides, say it again.
Give us a minute to get into the question.
Is that my time? No, that's my time. I'm talking. Let's get vocal code city council. Thank you. I'm just the cue. I'm sorry.
We want that fire. We want to stay. We want to stay here, but we do want to get to some of our questions. So go ahead, Raina, you have a couple of questions if you want to start with.
Sure. So some of the candidate questions that were pre-selected or submitted, in the world of a child in Detroit, what are some of the challenges that you see? What are some of the reasons for hope? And how would you go about shaping the world for our children in the city of Detroit as a council?
Sorry. First of all, I forgot to say, I want to say thank you for Hope Starts Here. I also want to thank the Foundation and Night Foundation for this program. I think the best way for us to be able to provide hope for our children is for them to be able to see examples of people being successful through mentorship programs. I know in the city of Detroit, we have the Grow Detroit Young Talent Program.
Yes.
I think that's something that's critical for kids to be able to shadow people who are successful, who are doing the right things, who are making a difference. So that's what I would look to expand, as well as to work with the private sector or nonprofit communities in terms of expanding and being more involved in mentorship programs. I think that's something that's absolutely critical. But also, I think it's important for us to be able to use the contracting process, whether it's with Brilliant Detroit's, or whether it's with our recreation centers, for us to be able to provide programming for kids. And I also, I forgot to say this, appropriated $52,000 from the city to schools to be able to teach kids how to learn a skill, how to learn a trade, whether it be a pipe fitter, whether it be an electrician. I'm not saying that we should discourage kids to go to college. We should encourage them to do that. But that's not the option for them. We should provide as many options available to them. And I think that's one of the ways that we can reach out to our kids to provide hope, is providing the opportunities for them, providing the options for them, providing the examples of people who are being successful in the city of Detroit. I think that's something that's important. We do that. I think provide hope.
What would you say? Go ahead, Mike.
I said, in the world of a child in the city of Detroit, with all the challenges that they face, what are some of the reasons that, or how can we provide hope for our children within the city of Detroit?
Well, one of the things that I would like to do. One of the things I would like to do with all the historical school buildings that city council closed and our kids don't have no place to go. And one of the things, one of the top things that we say is about our education. And our kids be out of school all the time, spring break, winter break, you know, so they not learning anything. So all these schools, this one I asked for in 2013, Heatley, they was gonna sell it to me for $1 emergency manager. They was giving $1.5 million, and I had other people saying, yes, as of right now, that building is still empty. There's another one, city council closed down, historical building. So historical buildings that you can't tear them down if you do a whole lot of stuff. So we need our school time for our kids a safe place. They're labeling our kids. I hear so many people say that our kids are mentally disturbed. What? Darn, not our kids are angry. They are frustrated. They don't have no talent. They don't have no fun. Everybody is labeling them. And what you want them to do? I don't think there are no bad kids. There's bad behavior. There's bad choices. We saying these things to our kids, and we do think that it's not breaking their spirit. I've seen teachers break these little kids' spirit, and we can't do that no more. So we need safe places, safe spaces for our kids, target them from this on up. No one should be hollering at kids. I see too many teachers hollering at kids. No one should be letting you hear. And what I do want, I want city council to regulate the activities of these charter schools. The Board of Education, they got big board, but these charter schools, I have seen them do some things to our kids, and they have no oversight, and we should be the eyes and ears. So I want to be all in their business. That's why I want to city council life. So, you guys all got a book when you came in, the Kindezi, forgive me if I pronounced it the wrong way. So it talks about the Congo art of babysitting. It states one leadership, like one's personality, finds its roots in childhood. Earlier events in childhood life play an important role in adults too. As such, great attention is paid to whoever has a role to play in the life of a child, the human being with the quickest copying mind. This basic understanding that childhood is the foundation which determines the quality of a society is the main reason that prompts African communities to make Kindezi an art to be learned by all their members. In other words, the community builds the child, what it takes for all of us to do this work. And I like that both of y'all talked a little bit about this, the city taking on initiatives, how funding needs to come, and how the city council needs to be involved in this. But tell us a little bit about what this, with this in mind, please share how your childhood experiences and influences make you an appropriate leader responsible for shaping the environment of Detroit's future leaders. So do me a favor, keep it in the early childhood, like what for our youngest kids.
So I remember when I was going to elementary school, we didn't have no cell phones, no internet. I went to Emerson School, that's right there on Trumbull. I lived on Lysander at 12, my grandmama stayed on 8. Some kind of way, whatever I did on Trumbull, got to Lysander before I got home. So we need to do that again, with some kind of way. I want to make the churches accountable. There used to be a time churches, they did 6-week vacational Bible studies, they did character building and all that for the youth in the neighborhood. So now they down there 3 days. So we have to make the church accountable. So our kids, as far as the little ones, We are village. We are village. We have to take it back there. There's no way around it. Our kids need to be able to look at us and trust us. When I was growing up, there was a safe house. If we thought somebody was following us, we knew where the safe house was. There's nothing for our kids. We don't have to go back the way we know how. So my thing is time for a change. I appreciate everything in here so far, career. I appreciate that. But there's some changes that have to go. So right now, we still got education problem, we still got kids problem, and we still got grades problem. So, you know, all these years and we still talking the same conversation, it's time for a change. And our babies at the top of the line.
Well, my child inspired me. Well, first of all, I think everybody knows my father is the Honorable Coleman Alexander Young Senior. The first African American mayor, in my opinion, the best mayor ever to serve in the city. That's my objective thing. That's my objective opinion. So I had real family legacy service to live up to and to watch. And I think what's impactful for me, and I agree with Ms. Parker in terms of we definitely need to be at the village. But I think that what's important for me is example, is leadership, is people believing in our kids again, people encouraging our kids again. That's something that's been absolutely vital for me, is the fact that I had parents that taught me the values of helping those that can't help themselves. Doing the shirt off your back for those. That power is only important as an instrument to serve the powerless way. And I know that these are values that were instilled within me. And then they put me around people who exuded those values. And I think that's what we can do with our kids, whether it's through mentorship programs, whether it's through shadowing programs, whether it's through educational and career technical education programs, whether it's through using contracts with our recreational centers like Brilliant Detroit to build educational hubs in these programs, whether it's Detroit or early childhood education intervention, which I think is also critical, and universal pre-K. But I think having social uplift programs also accompany that really makes a difference. We all know 80% of child brain develops between the ages of 0 and 5. And so I think that is what's really critical to me, is that positive mental attitude reinforcements. That if you believe in yourself, there's nothing to achieve.
I just want to say, everything you just said is absolutely true. It does start with people caring and people only worry about themselves, their direct environment and their pockets. But you got a whole city or a whole nation really of people and families that need care. They need the wraparound services. They need for our leaders to be able to care and say, okay, no, we're not going to take money and build something from the schools and build something else. We're not going to let our children be in environments where the silver falling in on them, they trying to learn, or they don't, they can't really read when they come to school because it's messing with molds, those type of things. So we have to have direct care for our children. You're saying setting environments, the environment that we put them in when they get ready to go to school, or their early childhood environment has to be right for them to even want to come to school. Because we have children that are even dealing with being homeless. We have a lot of families in the city of Detroit that are dealing with homelessness. So sometimes they can't even make it to that school. Or when they do make it to that school, that's supposed to be a safe haven for them. That's where they get their meals at sometimes. That's where they get their care at sometimes. So yeah, we need our leaders to stand up and stand 10 toes down and say that we have to care about our people, not just about our pockets. So how can we implement that care into our leaders? How can we exude that you care? How will you be able to show that the care starts for our children, that we honestly truly do care? What will you be doing to show our families and our community that we do care? Because it definitely starts when they're younger. We have to have resources for our families when they are going through. They can't even make it to the schools or child care centers if they don't have funds. They don't have transportation. They're not able to even get their kids to go where they need to go, or even to be able to have childcare, because they deal with homelessness. They don't have food, those type of things. So we're saying about care, mentor programs, yes, we need those things, definitely. But we also need our leaders to stand 10 toes down and say, no, we're not gonna take money away from programs that's supposed to help our families and children.
Or what programs you're going to implement to make sure, you know, they have the funds to do it, right? Scholarships, whatever, like, we'll go down the list.
Okay, yes, so, I was working with my lead, and you know, Laura has had a whole lot of money now here for childcare. They were given $10,000, startup, $50,000 for capital, and $150,000 for buildings that we want to start programs. Even once a home childcare, they was helping with this assistance, and they were doing fingerprints. So they put pause on it because a lot of people started doing that. It's just a pause. So the funds are here. So OST, you know, they want to concentrate on just after school in the morning. But they talk about the food, that's so much sugar. You give the kids all the sugar, all the gas, and tell them to sit down. How you do? You don't let them go outside and play. So that's why we need out of school. We need a safe place that's for kids. Grown people got the bars, the clubs, where they go to. Where do the kids have where they can go to this? Where can they go find a safe place they can just chill without nobody asking them no questions or talking about their mama? Because when I found out a child might say something about the mama just talking, then they turn around, they tell somebody else, then they talk about the kid's mom in school, then they got this, and that's embarrassing to the kids. These are little children. They come with 30 uniforms. Doesn't have to be like that. We don't buy shirts, so I got to get we bought shirts. We have to feel good on the inside. We have to show them love. Only thing we talking about is love as a noun. Love is not a noun, it's a verb. And if you don't show them, whatever you talking, you just run in your mouth. Kids know truth when they see truth. Parents know truth when they see truth. They don't need nobody in their business. They just need somebody to help them. And people forgot the welfare only keep people on welfare like 4 years. Then after that, we have to work. This one, I'm a teacher. This one lady, she said,
So can I ask you this stuff? So, it's easy for us, also based off of your question, right? Like, it's easy for us to say things about like working families and things like that. But when you have people who are working for, like you have childcare providers who can't pay, or directors who can't pay their staff enough because they actually don't have the resources. So some of the resources that you're talking about were kind of one and done for people, or they were due to the pandemic. What does it look like for you as a politician to make sure that there's stable funding so that all of our children are able to access early childhood education, as well as their providers are able to pay them a livable wage, so that we don't have people leaving the industry, right? Because we have people who want to take care of children. But if I can't do that as a provider, if I can't pay my staff the livable wage to be here, and there's somebody else, the local plant open up and gonna pay them more, there's a person working in a plant who has a heart to work with my child, but they can't do it because there's nobody fighting for them to make sure this is a consistent livable wage, or that it's either free for families. What would you be willing to do? So what I do, that's why I want to be. And hit all these schools, a lot of these schools and superintendents already know me. Everybody knows I'm going to be, and I want to help them. You know, and so what we will do as far as I need to, each person is experiencing different things, different things. And so that's why I want the block clubs to be able to bring these families in, where they can do so we get the story. Because everybody know they have the same story. We know that the kids have an issue. We know we got to make sure they're right. We know we need funding. But, you know, and parents right now, when they deal with the educational system, this only out, we can put our hand in it. Because what they tell them is always a good enough. You do it, you put your work, and you put your money in. So we just have to have a voice in that. So thank you. Yeah.
Yes, I just wanted to say, this with a lot, and I wanted to say, first and foremost, I want to talk about cleanliness in schools. I just want to have a great time going to school in the schools. And I think the fact that the city is able to work with the state to be able to take over the inspection process, that's how that got better. Because our children deserve to go to schools in clean and safe environments. And so I'm really proud to be able to do that. I want to continue to do that work. Every city council person I actually asked about providing more money for DC to be able to do that. And so I think that's something that's really important, but on that aspect. In terms of childcare, I want to work in terms of childcare provider rates. I want to work with the state, because the state is really involved in the licensing process. So I want to work with the state to be able to provide more money for this issue. I think what you're saying is absolutely important and critical. I also think we need to raise the minimum wage. Right now, 48 cents, 50 cents, somewhere in that range. We need to raise that at least to $16. That's what I'm going to work with the state in order to be able to do to take care of that aspect. Because you're absolutely right. Our most valuable resource is our children, but we have to pay providers. But we should never be in a society where people are working 2-3 jobs still to make it. We should never be in a society where you have child care workers who are trying to make $1.50.
Yeah.
That should never happen. And so what I want to do as your city councilman is to be able to partner with the state, be able to use my advocacy, to give you the connections I have as a former state senator, to be able to work with them to provide more money and more resources for that. And also work as a city council person to partner with DPSDD to be able to make sure that we have more school-based health clinics. Working with the city and the city's health department. I think that these are things that we can do overall to provide more services for our children, and also be able to make sure that child care providers are paid for the work they put in, what they deserve.
Well, that was a good thing.
So listen, I got into this race because the kids asked me to. So I was at a school. This school gave the kids cold food, not warm food. You talking about what pre-K they got to be on different things. So let's say the kid got all the way up. So they get cold food. There was no doors in the bathroom, none. They had somebody they had $60,000 a year for 3 years, who was not teaching our kids right, who didn't have a license, and was not certified, who didn't have a green card, and that's going on today. So I hear what he says, but I go to these schools, and it's not right.
So I'll give a couple of statistics to go along with some of the questions that Raina and I have been asking. The next couple of questions I would really love for us to keep it really focused, hyper focused on early childhood, okay? So, because that's the purpose of today, right? Up to age 8, right? But I really wanna focus also on those providers like, who are servicing our children birth to roughly around 5. Let's kind of stay there for a minute, okay? But that can be home center based, right? That can be those grandmamas who are getting funding from the state to take care of children. Licensed and unlicensed providers, preferably licensed, but we want to get those unlicensed ones licensed, right? So just a couple of statistics. 32% of Michigan caregivers have indicated that lack of child care impacted their employment, with Michigan losing $2.88 billion annually due to employees having child care issues. So imagine the fact that we're talking about these parents, right? We talked about a lot of parents, and we talked about raising the minimum wage and things like that. But what does it look like when you raise the minimum wage just a couple of dollars and then a parent maxes out for state assistance and can't afford it? Can't afford childcare, because then now they're back to working poor. What would you directly be willing to do? We know the problems about the schools. We know the problems. This is not a battle between public and traditional charter schools. This is a factual question about what would you be willing to do and push for in your office to make sure early childhood spaces have what they need so that families can come there, bring their children, and actually not struggle, so that their staff can be paid a livable wage, above a livable wage. And so those directors that want to get their buildings upgraded or want to expand and have more children will have the resources to do it. What would you do? I'll go with Cole Young first and then I'll cover it up.
Well, I mean, again, I think that I want to just kind of reiterate first and foremost that what I want to do is I want to use the city council process to be able to, one, let providers know about the grants that are available to them. A lot of providers are not aware of the financial assistance that's available to them that exists currently. I want to be able to do that, one. Secondly, I think what I want to also be able to do is work with the strategic neighborhood funds, or strategic fund that we have, excuse me, to be able to provide those funds, as well as also working with being able to apply for grants that we can have to be able to help people with those issues. I also know, but I also think that it's important for us to work with the state as well. And I want to use my position to be able to advocate for more funds for more child care providers. I think that's something that is absolutely critical. And I understand exactly what you're saying, because for every dollar that you invest in early child care, you get $2 to $4 back in the intro, $7 to $15 long term. So it is an educational multiplier when we invest in our children. And I mean, now I want to be clear. I'm a city council person, so most of this is state policy, most of this DPS, CD. I'm not saying that we're going to be consuming or taking over that position. I want to be clear about that. But I want to do what I can for this city council person to be able to change zoning laws easier for these places to start up, which I think we've already done that. The biggest room in the world is the room for improvement. We want to continue to be able to make that happen. I also want to be able to use that process to be able to apply for grants and opportunities to be able to provide that, as well as looking for Motor City Match to see if we can provide funds to child care startups in the city for to be able to have those funds available. I think that these are things that we can do, as well as being able to partner up with the private sector in public-private partnerships to be able to see if there are funds.
Would you be willing to push for universal child care?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's a state policy, but I definitely think that that's something that we should do. And I think that's something that's critical. I also just want to say this too. I am a supporter of guaranteed income. That's a program that provides. I want to provide $500 to 125 people for 18 months to 24 months, no strings attached. That's a pilot program. I think that is something that we should be able to do to not only be able to alleviate poverty, but also be able to make sure that people are more productive economically. Hopefully that's a program that gets caught on the state or the federal government, because like you said, there's only so much money that's available once you max out on it. And I definitely think through guaranteed income, we can be able to provide more funds that people need based on their income level. And I think that that's something we can not only alleviate poverty, but also have a productive and thriving economy.
We'll let Valerie go, but do you know how much it costs for a child care on a monthly basis? Go ahead, think about it.
No, it's
Think about it.
think about it.
Think about it.
You didn't know, no, she told me, that is, I know it costs about $700 to about $900. That's a month.
No.
So what is it for a month?
$1,300.
13.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's one child. That's one child.
Right. I'm gonna just ask the audience real quick. So
Let's come back to Valerie.
Okay.
I just wanted to raise that.
Okay.
It costs a whole lot of money. And I want us to have a sliding scale. A sliding scale, because everybody don't have the fees. I don't want them to be in an urban school where urban childcare, because you got the low classes and you got the upper classes. So how come everybody just can't get the same, because I've worked in childcare since before, I've been a director. I have to pay people $17 an hour, you know, so I see that. So, but what I'm seeing, last struggle that I seen was, you have people trying to start home childcare business, bring some extra money for the neighborhood. So then they can have 3 kids, 4 kids, they're all right. But when they try to do a family, they got problems, so they trying to change that zone. But right, because they want people in the neighborhood as much as possible. So I would like to try to keep the neighborhood so parents don't have to walk too far and drive too far to get their kids. So my thing is, we can come together, you know, with the state, you know, with Laura, they gotta listen, do home, family, childcare, city's all right, whatever you want. But we got to figure out that the main objective for me is to make our kids all right in the transition from home into school. Be established so they belong.
This question is for Councilmember Young. You were talking about grants and different programs that are available for childcare providers or for early childhood education. I think one of the things that have been brought up was the red tape. getting through, the red tape to be able to have access to those funds. Even when, just fixing up the building, or even with our families, even to get help with fixing up homes. There's a whole lot of red tape, a whole lot of things we go through, and then when those funds aren't, accessed because people can't get through the red tape, what happens to the funds? Where does it go, and then how do they access it, and then what will be put in place to help people understand or be able to get access to those funds?
Well,
Did it go?
Thank you. I would need a little bit more specificity in terms of some of the funds that you're referring to. But what I will say is part of the reforms that were just passed in terms of changing the zoning laws to make it easier, the child care providers to start up was reducing the red tape process, particularly for you having to go through a special land use process in order to start up a child care facility. So we were able to eliminate that, as well as we were able to reduce the fees that were that you have to pay in order to, I think it's about $4,000 environmental average to pay in order to start that up. So we had reduced the fees, we would reduce the red tape return for special land use projects. So that's some of the things that we've done in terms of the area. I think, though, and then it is a little bit different, but I know this is also a small business. And so what I would like to do is I would like to make sure that we also pass legislation involving reform to make it easier to start a small business. And the reason why I'm saying that is that one of the things that we have done is we had a business concierge person that was there to be able to help people go through the steps. It's about 183 steps to start a restaurant, about 900 pages of construction code. I would like to add the child care providers as part of that process, so you can have someone help you go through the steps you need to be able to get the grant, to be able to get the permits, and be able to do the things in the city that you need to do to make that process more effective and more efficient. And I would also like to be able to make sure that the city council, that we actually go out in the community and let people know about folks who want to have this. I think we need to have special town halls, encouraging people, letting people know, informing people, engaging with the community about how you can start up, encouraging the child care providers and what to do on the city end, as well as partner with our state partners about the licensing process and how that process happens.
Some more community workshops.
Well, I
We
think
educate in our community on how to access those funds.
absolutely,
And how to make it through the red tape.
I think it's both. I think it's both. I think it's education on starting up, how to go through the red tape, and then actually having somebody with the city that's there in a position to help you go through that process. And we've already created that position with the small business reform that we've passed. So I just want to add child care providers as part of that process.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
Yes, and with that, and when you add Norm, I would like to see that the application price is not much, but every year you have to have inspection, you have to have a furnace inspection. That's $200. You got to have a rayon inspection. That's this, every year, we ain't talking about every 2 years. Every year, so what is guaranteed that they make some money the first year? But you put that kind of pressure on them every year. So with infants, but it's four children, it's 2 people to an infant. You know, and so what do you do with that? You know, so how do they make their money? You know, so it's all, they know. So it's all about trying to figure out, we will have to, again, this will have to be a larger subject. It's 9 of us, we're gonna talk about, we're gonna get the community together, and since the education is going through a change, we gonna figure something out for our business, we gonna figure something out.
I just want to add this quickly.
Make sure it's brief for.
Yeah, it's super quick. I just want to say, we actually took her advice and we changed the law instead of being every year, it's every 2 years for this.
Oh, that is good. So we have a lot of early childhood providers and educators and parents out here. I would love to see what questions you guys have from the audience. Anybody has a question? We have a mic here, and I believe we will have a mic on the other side. I want us to also think about, we've talked about a lot about making changes with legislators and things like that. I want you guys to put in your head also how you would make some of these changes with the child care providers, like with their voices in the room and their women's partners, and with some of the parents who are doing this work as departments also.
There we go. There we go. First, want to thank you both for taking the time to and speak to those who are voting for you, those who are engaged in the process, and those who are interested. Centering back a little bit on early childhood education, Council Member Young, you mentioned guaranteed income or just raising the minimum wage, specifically getting it up to $60. When you think about early childhood professionals, we know that this is some of the most underpaid staff that we have in our state, in our city. And we also know that it creates a weird funding stream, right? As you try to raise those wages for the professionals, you also have to either push that cost on the parents or try to find some state dollars. So as you have those conversations around minimum wage increases, how do you incorporate early childhood professionals into those legislative conversations to really ensure that there's a balance and you're not seeing the cost pass on the parents, but you're also seeing those small businesses thrive? Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I think one of the things that I want to do in terms of making sure that don't pass on the costs is, one, we want to make sure that we have a thriving overall economy. I think we need to invest more in our small businesses. I think that's something that's absolutely critical. I think that's why we passed small business reform to be able to make sure if we increase small businesses by 60%, 3 jobs per small business, we can achieve full employment in the city of Detroit. And I think that's one of the ways in which we can have raised everyone's income level by being able to grow the economy. I think that's something that's critical for investing in our small businesses, to investing in our communities. Also, I want to make sure I want to engage our early childhood communities. I want to make sure, like I said earlier, I'm going out there to the town hall. I'm going out there. I'm sitting down with people like this one-on-one. I'm meeting with Hope Starts Here, and I'm having these discussions with you about what this is and what we need to do. Also, I'm working with my state partners as well. And I think we need to have some intergovernmental partnerships, or we need to have some sit down and talk about what the state needs to be in their role in this, and work together in terms of how we can make it easier for people to come into this space and be able to invest in our children. Because I think part of the reason why we are where we are is because we have not taken the time to really come up with a strategy overall of how we are going to invest in our kids, how we're going to combat the issues dealing with literacy, but more importantly, just overall strategy to make it easier for people to get in this business so that folks can get in the workforce. Most folks can't because they can't afford childcare, because the childcare day centers aren't affordable for them. And so that's why I'm proud of the changes overall. And I want to continue to keep working with that in order to make that happen.
Question back there.
Yes. Okay, go ahead. And also when making the changes, and we talking about the kids, well, the teacher, the director, we all have to be all right too. So they talking about mental space. So some kind of way massages and chiropractors have to be like a tax write-off, because you're touching, stress bump, some kind of way that have to be included as a benefit package and a write-off, because I've been through a whole lot of times coming from work. So I was doing massage, get my massage every week. They really help, and they have to be part of your benefit plan. They help y'all be all right and keep your body safe.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for attending the forum that addressed early childhood development. I'd like to kind of ask a question in regards to grandparents raising grandchildren, which is actually something that as most people of color have done in generations. Here in Detroit, the housing market, the taxation on grandparents keeping their homes in order to be there to raise their kids. There was a situation everybody heard of at the Town Casino parking lot, grandmother and mother living out of a car that we know lost some of their grandkids. How do you feel about grandfathering, or what they call grandparenting, or the taxes, property tax. People that had their home for 50 years and not able to pay their tax, which does affect kids if they're living in that grandparent's home. Would anybody here on this stage consider grandfathering property tax to allow to keep our grandparents or the elderly from losing their homes?
So listen, that is accurate. I've been seeing a lot of that, but when I was growing up, grandmamas, we loved our ideas. We was always in our ideas house. But I understand that it's different. And so, and for the taxes and the homeowner, but I think they have the whole program and different programs out here. There's also funding that they would give you as a grandmother who are watching your kids. That comes from the state, that comes from Laura. We're gonna have to think more about that because there's a lot of stuff going on. And as I was talking to her, I said, they talk about our kids are mentally, they emotional, stuff, but our kids are listening to their parents. They going to jail, that's grief. Our kids are grieving. They are losing a lot. They said things we've never seen before. And thank you, grandparents, for being here. And so our job is to make sure, because it's the whole child, the whole family, and we got to make sure everything is all right. Because we have to concentrate on y'all, because y'all are a new market that's never been before, where you obligated. My grandmama had a choice. Y'all obligated. So then we have to make sure that we put y'all in a safe space, but I know Laura has money for grandparents. And property taxes, they trying to do X amount of tax in Michigan. I don't think that's gonna happen. I know they talk about lowering the taxes. I hope that does, because I'm tired of paying taxes. But I understand your position, and there's none of us who have to answer that question together for you, because there's an open situation and it has to be addressed.
First of all, I just want to say thank you for that question. That was a whole lot that you said. I just want to say, one, I do agree with my opponent in terms of talking about in terms of talking about the home exemption program. That's something that you can have. You can get an exemption or a partial exemption, and partial exemption for your property taxes. But I think secondly, there is a program that I support called the land value tax, split rate tax, which reduced property taxes by 17% for 97% of Detroit homeowners. I think that's something that's absolutely critical. And we're doing that by lowering taxes on property improvements and raising it on land. This is, and we're giving them that burden by taxing lighting homes, abandoned buildings, and slum landlords and land speculators and scrapyard owners. 78% of Detroiters pay higher taxes for keeping up their properties than people who own abandoned and blighted buildings. That is fundamentally wrong, and I think that's a shame before God. One, so we need to lower the property taxes. Secondly, you talked about the issue of grandparents. I just want to say it's a little bit different. I think part of the reason why we're in the position that we're in is because Black women are 4 times more likely to die while being birth of children. I think that's something that is fundamentally wrong. We need to work with our state to be able to deal with the issue of racial discrimination against Black women in the hospital system. And I think that's part of the reason why we have this issue. Also, I think part of the issue is because of mass incarceration. And I think that, Black people are 7.5 times more likely to be wrongfully convicted for murder. They're 8 times more likely to be wrongfully convicted for sexual assault. And they're 19 times more likely to be wrongfully convicted for a drug crime. This is part of the reason why we have grandparents that are raising children, because they're locking up Black men for crimes they didn't commit, and because you have Black women that are dying in excess while giving birth to children. And so I think that these are things of institutional racism that we have to deal with as a city and a state and as a nation. And I just want to also say, finally, you talk about the issue of housing. I think that's something that's absolutely critical. We need to change the zoning laws to be able to make sure that we build more triplexes, more duplexes, more mixed-use development, and more 3D printed homes so that we can have more homes that are available for our citizens. Because we shouldn't have people freezing to death, and we shouldn't have people that don't have access to homes. Because I think that's a right, and I think that's something we have to be able to invest in as we change the zoning laws to be able to make that happen. And I'm proud to be able to co-sponsor the pilot ordinance with payment in lieu of taxes so that we can have more affordable and attainable houses built in the city.
Question in the back.
Hi, thank you for being here, Ms. Elizabeth, I'm with Detroit Champions Hope. And so my question is actually, I was wondering, you had mentioned about like the grants for people to order for, the providers to provide for childcare, for the educators, right? Well, where are these grants? Because I sure don't see those grants ever. And then another thing is also, what about training our educators? They need special training, like especially with mental health children, children that are going through all these, difficulties, you know, with their parents, with grandparents and stuff like that, especially when they go to childcare. Educators need to be trained. And I don't believe just having them to go through the My Registry and just getting those hours. I also believe that they should be paid training for them in order to be our educators or our children. So how do you feel about those?
So where it's.
Well, listen, I just want to say, I think that's a really good question. I think that one of the things that we want to do, we want to run a great partnership in the city of Detroit to be able to find where the grants are and be able to provide, work with our providers to be able to do that. Work with Motor City Match to be able to work with our child care providers. That's really what I want to do. I want to make sure that we have a very expansive search on where we can find these grants. I also want to say, again, I passed a program called the Jumpstart Program. The Jumpstart Program was a program where if you were out of work for 6 months or more, you would get paid to learn a skill.
Okay.
We paid individuals $220. We paid $2,200 per person, $7,200 per Detroit organization. I think that childcare could be one of those things that we can work else with the ARPA funds we receive. I think that childcare could be one of those programs that we could use. Now, because the ARPA funds are running out, we're kind of transitioning that program to the private sector. I think that childcare should be one of those programs that we can do as a way to train childcare. I'm not saying that we're replacing the state and the state registry and what you have to do. We don't work with them all the time. I don't want to mention, I'm not saying the city's gonna replace all those services, but I think those one of those services that we can provide and we can work with Champions of Hope and people like Hope, Helps Here to be able to do that. And I think that those are things that we should be able to address those issues.
Yeah, I just wanna backtrack just a little bit when we're talking about housing and we're talking about, for grandparents that are taking care of children and we're talking about, taxes on the homeless. So yes, we have the whole program, but those that can be limited. It's very limited. You may not have it the next year, you may get it 1 year, you may not get it the next year, depending on your income or how you go through the red tape. Currently in the city of Detroit, a lot of people are using tax inappropriately for their home. So meaning they're paying more taxes than what the home is worth. A lot of people don't know that you can have the department come out and reassess your house so that you can get proper taxation on your home. And in the past, the city has not been willing to backtrack or be able to fix property taxes for people. We've been seeing increases. So how do you address that issue with taxation on some of the homes, especially for our seniors? You gotta remember, yes, they are taking care of families. Sometimes that might be the only house in the whole family. So how can we do that for our seniors? They are definitely on fixed income if their work comes from retirement, but they don't fix income. So how can you, or what is the city currently doing, and how can we continue a process to make sure that we're not having homeless seniors? Because in the other work that I do work with seniors, and housing is definitely a major issue. So the question is, what programs or how can we make sure that our seniors stay in their homes? And
Who was it for?
it was really it was for him.
Okay, that's
He already in the mix. I need him to be able to ask the question because he already in the mix.
Yeah.
What's going on right now?
Well, first of all, I want to provide a little bit of pushback. We have already done a citywide assessment correcting the problem of over assessment. Also passed ordinance correcting over assessment in the city. But we are already going through the process of doing want to say it first.
In the process of.
Yeah, well, first of all, we provided AC, so we reduced the second lot, so I think, again, I just want to provide a little bit of pushback, I think that's a reality. Secondly, I wanted to say, though, that I talked about reducing property tax already, and property tax, work, that's one. I think secondly, what we need to do though, is there's a board of appeals process, you can go through that process, to be able to ask for the process.
I've been, for the process, that's a whole other conversation. Between attorney, no speak.
So if you call 224-4248, see, my mom's glad to do that. But, 4248, 224-4248, that's 313. But there's a man by the name of Will Donovan, who works with the board. He's very good at to be able to help people with their property. I help people because I have an office over in Buxton Family Center, and we've actually got staff at there. And we've actually helped people go through this process, actually help people with their appeal process and how people stay in their homes. I also want to say there's another program with the county called the Pay As You Stay program. And so if you qualify for that program, they will reduce the property tax that you owe by either 10% of the value of your property, or if it's below 10%, the fees that are on the property. And so that's what you would work with county treasurer Eric Sabri to be able to deal with. So we are dealing with these. Now let me say this, look, the biggest room in the world is the room for improvement. Can we do things better? Yes, we can. And I want to make sure that I'm working to be able to do that. But we're in the right direction and we're trending in the right direction. And I want to make sure that I come back here and work with you guys to be able to make sure that we continue to go in the right direction. And make sure that I am advocating for you to be able to help you go through that process. That is
Can
my
I tell you
job.
that I want to go to this question, but I want to tell you, the trend for early childhood literacy is not going in the right direction.
I'm gonna talk about property tax. I want to talk about early child. Okay. Okay. All right. I'm just talking about property tax.
First of all, let me tell you something. I just some taxes, my taxes normally $5. They said these are for 15. I went down into a stress, I think on the manual mistake. You know, so we talk and they be doing, you know, so tax are going up, about it. So they try to do, and if you don't ask you, they don't do stuff with you. So, you know, so just keep an eye on that, but that's an office. I never had a problem with it. You take some down on the other side. I've never had a problem. And for our question, I'm asking people to buy lots. If you said, you know, you need development on there, because the lots are not the right size. So what I'm telling people, these vacant lots, people $50, grandmama, get you one of them house, manufactured house, they treat like a condo and sit right there on your lot in your new house and raise your grandkids. Question.
Thank you so much. Hi, my name is Dr. Crystal Fan of the Proud Facilitator and Home That's here. And so grateful that you are here. I'm also an adult who was raised by my grandmother, and I'm hoping a child fix, right? And the reason for that is because we're just as impacted family. Because felons have different access to public utilities. And so I'm wanting to know what the city can do, within that barrier of this impacted families, so that we're not putting a burden on a grandparent, like you said, Valerie, right? It was a choice for your grandmother, for my grandmother, it was not. She had 3-4 kids at her doorstep overnight because someone got arrested. So, what can the city do?
Yeah, okay. Parent. I just wanted to say, I think in terms of being able to do that, the first thing that we need to do, I think, is we need to reevaluate the laws that we have in the justice system, federally, as well as state. There's certain jobs you can't work if you're a felon. There's certain places you can't live if you're a felon. I think that we need to reduce that. I know that one of the things the city is we ban the box, which is asking the question, have you or have you not been convicted of felony? I think these are things that we need to continue to do. I also think that we need to look at laws that we have on the books that are within our control, that we can reduce that might be something that, could potentially get people in trouble or be on people's records. But I think primarily what we need to do is we need to also use our advocacy in advocating for state policy and also advocating reform on the federal level. I think that these are things that actually, where I think that the war on drugs has been absolutely devastating for communities of color. And I think one of the reasons why we are where we are is we've been locked up with low-level drug offenses that should have been treated as a substance abuse issue, where people should have gotten health care and not prison. And I also think it is a little bit different, but I also think it's important for us to be able to invest more in mental health as well. 84% of the people that are playing out of jail have mental health issues. And I was proud to be able to invest $1 million in the mental health co-response program for our police department, to be able to make sure that they have social workers, mental health professionals that are going out there on these calls. I think you all know about the story of Porter Burks, the young man that was killed with them with health episode. You should have more mental health professionals that are there. They also have homeless wellness checkups as well. And so I think that these are things that we should be able to do to keep people safe and also treat them. But I think in terms of what we're talking about, I'll wrap it up. We need to be able to make sure that we reform our laws in terms of people. People should not wear a scarlet letter or be punished for the rest of their life. Because it really, we should be judging people based on the worst mistake they made. And I think that we need criminal justice reform. That's what's important.
Situation. They have it in law. That is a special circumstance. You shouldn't have to pay the price for whatever the parent did. The grandmama shouldn't have to pay the price because she's there. You know, they don't have to pay foster care money. So one, you can't be a special circumstance. And that's something that we should bring about, because when you take the kids and put them in foster care, that's another traumatic experience. And I'm not so fast to put kids on medication. I'm not saying I have no issues, but their issues are being brought up by home. They tell kids when you slow. Okay, so what's gonna happen? You know, you tell kids you bad. What's gonna happen? They parent in jail. They parent on drugs, and your mama on drugs. Kids hear that. That's part of them. So we have to be careful about what we say around these kids, because you damage these little kids' spirit. So a lot of them are grieving. Let me tell you my story. My father got murdered 1970 when I was 10 years old. December 24, 1970. I had a dream that he was going to get shot. My uncle came to me and I already knew. So the first thing he said to me, because I'm crying, I'm not bored. I just lost my father. I had a dream he was going to die. I went to see him and he was cold, but I got cold. My mom went and got another man. I couldn't get another daddy. So our kids are losing stuff when you want to live with them and not take care of the issue. If they grow and they acting crazy, because the issue has been taken care of. So medication ain't number the baby. Let's deal with issues. Can you use the mic for me just to take the video?
Thank you for coming. I'm watching you and what is
DC is building safety, energy engineering department.
So we've been talking about property taxes, and we know that it is 15 that if they go to a school, but if we could repurpose maybe some of those funds from those businesses downtown back to child. And we were talking about partnerships. We have Gucci, we have Lululemon, we have H&M, we have lots of major department stores that really don't understand or even afford to go. Okay. So we want to make teaching great again. So the idea is to form partnership. I see your eyes getting big. Form partnerships to repurpose some of their tax dollars to early childhood professionals. With the little of the way the state is and SNAP benefits being cut, finding partnerships to give teachers resources, wellness resources that are needed, that they can give to child care providers and to child care teachers. It's not always about pay. We can give them other reasons to stay and play.
Can I add to that question? And not giving money from schools to those businesses. because we know that's happened in the past.
Well, I want them to divert some of that money that Dr. B is sending over to Southfield.
I understand that, and
I want the
also,
money for childcare. That's all I can say, divert it back to you. That's all I can say.
I'm saying like the money that we get for our businesses down. We pay businesses where they get a tax break to come and, so we know that, I know that, so this is economic development. So property taxes, if we can improve our tax base by giving teachers reasons to stay and play in the city, then we can acquire more people that want to come and live in the city. When we improve our early childhood educational system, that makes our tax base more reliable, dependable. People want to come and work and live here. It is very hard to recruit and retain teachers when we pay minimally and they don't have the benefits. So how can we think outside of the box? Forget that box, forget blaming other people. Forget trying to say we've done this before and we have these plans and these grants that are out here that none of us can find. I can't find them either. So I hope that you have a list that you can fill out for us, because it's no longer acceptable that we can say that we have grants that are available and we get $50,000 to start up programs. I know it's a lot, but I got my 2 minutes, so, that we can give money and we have programs already out here that need help. So instead of always saying we need more childcare, we need to help the childcares that are here. We need to help the teachers that are already in the field and institutions. And we can do that by thinking outside of the box. Rodney Deal is the vice president of the Detroit Historical Museum. I have partnered with him to give a free day for teachers so that they can come in and have experience-based learning. That means they can come in and get a full experience of the museum and get their training hours. So thinking outside of the box of saying, how can we bring fun, friends using neighborhoods, back to our schools, back to providers, back to the heart of what we get to do. If we can change the heart of why we actually come into a school and not have home faces, then the people who walk in the room with no way in God's green earth going to a building with love.
Question.
Well, first of all, I just wanted to say, I think that was my first, I just wanted to say, one, I think what you're referring to mostly in terms of taxes in the state, most of that. And so I think what I want to do is I want to work with my state partners and you that's more education. More, well, hold on, let me please let me one. And so I think that's something that we need to invest more in. I think we also need to invest more in terms of at-risk youth. I think that's something that's very critical. And as well as investing more in childcare. I think that's something that our state leaders need to do. I think from a city perspective, in terms of property taxes, I think that again, I think the best way for us as a city to be able to promote more childcare is for us to be able to make it easier for childcare businesses to start up in the first place. So that's why. Well, can I? Am I gonna be able to like finish or what's?
So let's go to that.
Am I done with the question or okay?
So I hear you saying that you want the businesses from downtown Detroit to get into you all, what they call the second Detroit, because that's Detroit #1, to make sure that y'all are all right and able to open a business and sustain your business. Is that what I heard?
Yeah.
Now, from my understanding, all of us told that the funding for downtown is different than for the neighborhood. Is that correct?
Say it again.
That the money for downtown is different from the funding for the neighborhood. Is that correct?
No.
Okay, so that's what I'm asking, because I didn't know. And so, yeah, because I was always gonna make that correct. So I hear what you say. But the business owner, as a business owner, I tell you, the first year, the second year is hard. Trying to establish your business. I understand what you're saying. So how can we make sure that everybody's all right? That we lose, the business not losing money, you get what you want, and we all right. So it's about a balance. So we're gonna have to figure that out. But just to take some money from the business and give it and they invest their money, that's something to chew on, that's something to chew on.
So I believe what, I believe what she's saying is, so the big businesses that are coming in and are profiting off of the community. Like, how do we make those businesses accountable to the citizens and residents of the city of Detroit? For example, Detroit Public Schools and the school board and the city council a couple of years, quite a few years ago, gave permission for funds from the schools to go directly to building some of the buildings, right? And so how do you?
But that's state, I mean, again, that's state policy. No, it's not. That's state policy. That is something that we need to work with our
But it's
state
still
elected officials.
approved by, it's still, some
No.
of it is still approved by city.
No. Most of the tax incentives, or the tax discounts, the tax incentives that are going to state policy. What the city does is provides tax discounts. And so what it does is it freezes the property tax at a certain level for the project to be able to take place. The state provides most of the tax incentives. And then, but the state also replaces most of that money when it comes to the per pupil funding. What we need, but I'm gonna say this. What we need to do in terms of the issue that you're talking about is, one, we need to be able to have more public-private partnerships. Secondly, when we're having our community benefits agreements, we need to be able to make sure that part of those community benefits agreements includes more investing in childcare. And not more investing in childcare, and more investing in the childcare center that's staying here. That's what I
Instead of benefit,
that's what I think.
instead of just the benefit of their abatement and then changing hands. That happens a lot. They get their abatements, then they change hands.
What do you mean by change hands? What does that mean in terms of what?
Change hands. So they get their abatement, they get their 5 years, 6 years, whatever, however long the abatement is for. Then they change hands, the business goes to my cousin, the business goes to somebody else.
No.
And they change, that happens a lot.
We're talking. I think that might have small businesses. And I think that's critical. I think that's why we need to be able to route.
Everybody's responsible.
But for larger businesses, I don't think that this is gonna change anything. And I just wanna say, usually when the tax abatement ends, people's property tax, the taxes go up. So we're actually gonna receive more money once the abatement ends. It usually depends on how long it is, maybe 15 years, sometimes it's 30, but most is a 15-year abatement. But it's not that they're not paying taxes, it's just frozen at what they would pay.
Okay, can we redirect now? We roughly have about 7 minutes. So let's get this young lady back. Here's a question, and then we have 2 over here. And we're gonna ask, if we can kind of keep the responses just a little bit, shorter to make sure we.
We got time for a few more, we got one in the back also.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kim Siegel, and I am the Michigan representative of the National Association of Family Child Care. And I just want to bounce off of what this young lady said again and ask a quick question. Do you know, and it's a real question, do you know the programs that already exist, the tri-state agreement, the tri-share agreement that they do in Upper Michigan all the time with the local farmers and business owners? They are doing a tri-share partnership. So if you do know that, can you help us out and understand how to do it and find the office that is over it? So if you don't have time, maybe we can take power in our hands and find out what this money is. If these companies can start helping us with helping them get their employees to work.
Sure, absolutely. I definitely think you want to be able to work with you and want to be a partner with you in terms of tri-share program. Absolutely. And I definitely think that's a really good idea. And I was talking about that a little bit earlier. I definitely think that's something that we need to do, and I want to continue to work with you and have the city be a partner with you on that issue.
And someone just asked, where the grants are, and so they were, I just got one the other day, I just don't apply for them, no, because I'm doing something else, so they talk about OST. And Michael Lee is doing, grant opportunity right now. You know, so you have to do, RLP, you know, but they're doing it right now, I just got it on my email, a week ago. So I don't know what's going on and why y'all not sharing this information, but I'm gonna make sure that I can leave here, I'll check my email, and I'll send that stuff to go on. And then he can send it, then we go from there. Okay? Send it to me.
I have a question here. I run to the, I want to, providers. And I have a couple things. One, you said raise something. One, you said raise the minimum wage to $15. I have no problem with that. I would love to do that. But as a home provider, paying somebody $15 an hour, 40 hours a week is $600 a week, okay? Which is $2,400 a month. They're not an employee at that time. They're a partner. Because we don't make that kind of money. That's on the low end. If you don't participate in Grace Fair Equality, you get paid anywhere from $200 to $257 a week. That's 3 children. I need 3 children to pay that person. So we need, the more you raise the minimum wage, and I have no problem with that. I believe everybody needs a livable wage. I believe in that. But you have to find some money somewhere else. And to participate in Grace Fair Equality, now you're basing my pay on what I want to be in this program. That don't work. Just give me the money back front and let me be able to pay somebody, you know. And the other thing is the red tape. You probably heard my name, but by right, because I have emailed you several times about the fire. I don't have a problem with anybody opening up a business. But you guys promised that you would cut the red tape for individuals who have family child care, who want to go to group child care. I haven't seen it. I was in a meeting on Thursday. People are telling me the amount of money they had to pay for an application, $1,000? Come on, for an application, still might not get that right to go to group. Y'all said y'all would leave it up to the state, whatever the state was doing, it would happen. It's not happening. I was in a meeting on Tuesday night, but a guy told me a zoning application was $1,000. And then you have to get the architecture, and then you have to do something, all these permits. Y'all promised y'all wasn't gonna do that. Y'all promised you was gonna do the red tape, and I ain't seen it yet. And I'm hearing, although I'm already group, okay, but I'm hearing from other people that they still got to pay all this money. They still got to pay all this money. What happened to the promise?
Well, first of all, I just want.
I'm not paying. Also, by right.
No, this is question. Statement?
Also, by right, just, they can have more than one child care in a rock. That's a disaster for a neighborhood. That's the disaster. And me being licensed for 14 children, you put somebody in there for 6 children. So now we got 20 cars running one neighborhood, one block. Is a disaster. Because I live a block away from the school. My clients can't get to my facility, my home, unless they walk from block away. You understand what I'm saying? Also, I want you to think about it. You see how the seniors have.
This is an awful lot.
Yes, I want you to think about it.
Well, can I get like a pen and pad and write something down? And is there like a mail or something? Okay. Why don't you like call my office and let's sit down and talk about it? We gonna sit down and talk. That's more email. It's a lot.
Our parents and kids don't have transportation services to get to the child care department. Seniors have, what is it, fire protection. Why can't you give those parents transportation to get their child to child care, to work, and back home for limited amount of time until they're on their feet? That's all I want now.
Okay. Thank you. I gotta go.
Yeah, so, did you want it to answer or were those just comments? Can you answer briefly for us?
All of that,
Yes.
I just want to answer the last question first. I think that we need to definitely have more transportation options. I think within the city of Detroit, I think that micro transit is something that's important. I think that we need to have something called mobility as a service.
What's micro?
So micro transit is where basically you would be able to have like vans and buses from the city, be able to send out and call them. I think that's something that's absolutely critical. I also have a program called accessibility, which uses technology such as automated vehicles to be able to pick up senior citizens to and from automated, autonomous, that makes the system automated where it can drive by itself. Usually what we're using technology to pick up senior citizens to and from. So I think we need to be able to have more transportation options in terms of picking up people, taking them to childcare. I know we also have a program called the Goal Line Program, where we partner up with DPS CDB to provide transit for children. And so I think it no longer provides transportation for children. But it did provide transportation for children.
Yes.
Okay, well, we need to revitalize the Goal Line Program. And I want to work with our state partners to be able to do that, to provide transportation for our children. Also, I think you had a question about the $16 minimum wage program. I definitely think that, like I said earlier, and I want to work with you to be able to see if there's grants that are available to be able to work with our small business community. You also talked about red tape. We just passed these laws in council. So it's gonna take a while for this to be able to go through the process and be able to be solidified. We just passed these. But I think it's important to understand that we reduce red tape, one, by having a business concierge person help people go through that process. We have reduced fees and fines in terms of doing that. It's gonna take us some time for us to be able to implement this program and go through that. But these are things that we're adhering to. Now, in terms of the issue that you had in terms of the 20 children that are in these child care facilities, I think one, in terms of people driving through the streets, we need to be able to have more speed bumps that are be able to be put in these areas so that people will slow down, so that people have the.
I think it's good on.
Well, how we gonna have people slow down? Well, hold on. Wait, let me finish saying. And then y'all become mad. So I think that's something that's vital and important, because we need to be able to make sure that our communities are safe and our children are safe in these neighborhoods. And so I definitely want to sit down with you and work with you about the issues that you have in the future. My number is 224-4240. 313 for people to call. I'll give you my card with my team, they're right over there.
You heard definitive date on when you're gonna return those emails?
See? Look, first let me say this. I'm asking you to sit. Hold on for a minute. Let me finish what I'm saying. I'm asking for a sit down. So.
Put it on the calendar.
Hold them to it.
Put it on the calendar.
Hold them to it.
Yeah.
One in the back.
Wait, my name is Robin. My question. You were talking about raising minimum wage. But what are your plans to work with the state? Because every time y'all raise minimum wage, y'all raise the cost of living. So the cost of living going up and raising minimum wage, it will still be hard for people to pay for childcare.
Well, first of all, I just want to say, one, I believe that the rising tide lifts all boats. And so I believe that if you have people who are poor that have more money in their pocket, they can spend more of that money up front. And so I think part of the reason why we had the issues that we had just coming out of the pandemic. And so we had the issues in terms of the supply chain. I think we're working towards repairing that, improving that, making more efficiencies towards that. And so I think that now look again, part of this is outside of my control. Part of the reason why the costs are on the way there, and the costs are up because of tariffs and such things that are being levied. I can't do anything about that. Again, I'm a city councilman. I'm not a congressman. I'm not your state elected official. But I think in terms of what you're talking about, we definitely need to work with our state partners to be able to have an overall plan of understanding, one, that be raising minimum wage, how we're gonna make sure that we keep the cost of living low as well. And so I definitely want to be able to work with my state partner.
Can we get that right there?
Yeah, okay.
Yes, yes.
So listen, I understand what you're saying about too many, child cares in the, community, because it takes away from you, so I understand that. And so what I'm suggesting that we do, because they try to do some transit, but this is, they can call it the transit in 1 hour. So we're gonna have a discussion, because they talking transit. And so maybe, with the kids, because we understand all parents don't have cars, buses running funny, and that's why some of the parents don't make it to the PTA meetings, because it'd be too late, they ain't got a car. But I suggest that we look up with a man called Ronald Boyd, down there in the old, Kingsway. He's finna do a school down there. He owns a bus system right on Global Line. So how come we can't get together and make a deal with him? He's already working with the school system, that we can make sure our kids have a look, make things easy for the parents. That's a conversation. He's willing to do that. He's trying to run with mayor, right here. But he got his own thing. He put $4 million into $9 million into that building right down the Oakland, and he owned the bus company. We have to use that. If you want to work with us, let's use him to work for you.
Last one in the back.
Last question.
Hi, my name is Dr. Lakeisha Grant. And so I'm making a comment, right? I'm not for sure if you are familiar with going on with the federal funds for Head Start. I work at Focus Hope. We applied to be our own grantee. And we did that in December. And the federal government has not made communication with us. Typically, our program starts in September. We haven't had any communication. So right now, the federal funds are delayed. And if the federal funds are delayed, there are gonna be several families without childcare. And if we're talking about it on this level of just home providers, centers, we're looking at something bigger in the city of Detroit when it comes to childcare. Head Start is free to a certain amount of families. But we're not seeing any information from the federal government at this time saying that we're gonna be awarded for funds. I urge everyone here to look into it, to do your own research. But I understand that providers who don't have federal funds or GSRP funds from the state, we all need to work together. That look like us, Black and brown babies, and families who can't become stable because they do not have quality child care, or the federal funds have not made it to them in time, and their 9 to 5 start Monday morning.
Thank you, Lakeisha. Everybody for being here today. I would like for the DCH staff to please stand for us in this space. So these are your community leaders in this space that work around. I heard you say that you're working to host sessions. We will hold you accountable to that, right? Whether you're elected or not. If you are elected, we are looking forward to these conversations to continue and not you just talk about it, but bring the people who are part of the work in the space, the Veronica Williams, the Rochelle's, all of these people who are doing this work, bring them in those spaces to have that conversation, to make sure some of these issues are solved quicker, and we're not here 4 years later having the same. Not right now, we're turning. Not right now, so we're turning on last comment. Okay, so last comment. Thank you.
I thank you for allowing us to come here, and I heard everything, and all y'all, I've been out here, passing out 7,000 flyers and knocking on 624 doors, and I'm talking to people, and all got saying the same thing. So I'm asking y'all that you have one voice. City council, one voice. Y'all get that stuff together, y'all email us, one voice. Say the same thing, one voice. We as city council, we have to listen to that one voice. If it's one voice, if you come 10,000 strong, if you put it in city council, they're gonna have to talk about it, yes or no? One voice, one voice. Okay?
We still on?
First of all, I just want to say thank you for Hope Starts Here. This has been a very illuminating process. I just wanted to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you for all the work that you guys do every day. I think that the difference that you make in molding a child mind, there have been so many people who, families that I have not had to talk about being in a situation of poverty because of your work, of children not being able to read because of your work, children who are not having buried by their mothers and their fathers because of your work, children who didn't have homes and have them because of your work. Words cannot express how thankful I am and how thankful the city of Detroit is for your service. It would be my honor and privilege to have your support and your vote, because the most precious asset we have is our children.
That's right.
Yes.
And they would not be where they are if it was not for you. So
Yes.
thank you, and I appreciate you.
Thank you all. Don't you want me to turn it over to Fine, to close out, and thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Another round of applause for our two candidates. You did the work to be out here. You had questions, they answered the questions, they answered the call. They're here, they showed up today to share with you and answer your questions around early childhood education, caregiver support, taxes, and a list of other things. So thank you. And also want to thank our two moderators, Brenda Bradley and Maria Robinson. In your package that you got today, you have some handouts. One is our 6-a-day flyer, 6 days, 6 things that you can do with your child, with yourself, with anybody that needs brain development, early literacy skills, and bonding and care of your child. Sing, read, play, hug, walk, and encourage. Do those 6 things every day with your child, with anybody in your life, even with yourself, and you'll see vast improvements. Okay? One of those 6 days is read. So another thing in your packet, you got a book. It's called The Desi, The Congo Art of Creating City. Read the book. Read the book. It offers us a model for community-centered childcare. What does a community do to make sure that we have the services and the needs of our children are being met together? How do we hold our leaders and politicians accountable? How do we hold businesses accountable? Because everybody has a role to play. So check out the book. There's a letter that goes with that book, and it has 6 things that we've been talking about today. The child is the most important resource to be developed in the community. Everybody having a role to play. The social environment in which we're living in. The multi-generation, so from our ancestors to our elders, to our adults, to our children, to the future generations that we're preparing for. That's what we have to keep in mind. Also, we are building a system. The current system, as we talked about, is not working. So that system needs to be critiqued. And we need to build a new one together. And it takes all of us in this room, all of us that are not in this room, because we are building it for the future generation. And so take that information, you have it, we'll be in contact. We have your information, read the book, share the book, practice the 6 days, and go out there and be a champion for Detroit's children, because Detroit's children are the world's future. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, yes. Wow. Wow. There it is.